Welcome to Start Before You're Ready, the podcast that proves that you don't need to wait for the perfect moment to begin your journey towards better health and happiness. I'm your host, Kelly Young. Remember, the first step is often the hardest, but it's always worth taking. Hey guys, it's Kelly, and I am back with another episode of Start Before You're Ready, and I am here with a longtime friend, Anker. Some of you in my community know Anker because we have indulged in his amazing granola out at the parking lot and gotten the opportunity. He's actually sent us some samples and just had the opportunity to have that. And I know a lot of you guys love the product, and we're going to talk about that. But I want to go back a little bit to how I originally met Anker. So Aaron and I are, I'm pretty sure we went to middle school together, Iroquois Middle School. And that's when I moved to Niskuna, was middle school. And we went to high school together. And Aaron was known as the cool guy. He was definitely willing to take some risks. And when we did our things like senior skip day and the things that, were like a little bending the rules, Aaron was always leading the way. And we've stayed connected over the years. Unfortunately, we haven't seen each other as much, but just because I have admired him so much as a businessman, I've kind of followed his path, and it's just really cool to see kids that you just hung out with. And, both Aaron and I are probably quick to say, we did not graduate top of Niskuna, but we were always hardworking. We were always in there. We were always involved, and we both have businesses that we love. So we're here to talk about that. But just to give you a little bit of a background, Aaron is the sole owner right now of, it's now called Grandy Organics, and he's known as the Chief Granola Officer, which I love. Okay, Aaron, I could talk all day. I will let you introduce yourself to our Start Before You're Ready community.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, but I'm also really proud of you. I want to tell a quick story before I introduce myself, and your community will like this. So last time I saw you was at our, in person, was at a reunion, and don't ask me what it was, but it was probably 5-ish years
30
ago.
years.
Okay, so whenever it was that, 3 years ago? Okay, whatever. It's insane. And I said to you that you were an influencer. And you looked at me, you're like, I'm not an influencer. And I need to tell everybody here, and I don't think I need to tell everybody because everybody knows this, you are totally an influencer. Okay, so I don't mean social media, but you do a great job on social media. Think about how many people in your life, around your community. I've listened to a few of the people on the podcast. You've influenced them, or you influence your community. You've convinced people to be fit. You just influence in a good way. And one of the things that I think in this new modern world, and we deploy, I guess that's the word, influencers all over the place for Whole Foods or Costco or anybody out there, just to tell people to try stuff, is you're just trying to convince them to do, follow your product or do this thing or that. So I'm so excited to be here with you. And I think you're awesome. So, all right. So as
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you.
Cheers. And I'm proud of you. So what I want to tell you is that I listened to Daniela Hess, and I think you've had other people on. I think
Daniela's was amazing. She's amazing. Tanya Cook. If you haven't listened to Tanya Cook, it's riveting. It changed my life. I'm not that. Listening to Tanya was really inspiring.
I'll do that. Yeah, she's awesome. We went to school with some really cool people. Okay, but I guess I'm supposed to talk about myself. All right. So my name's Anker. I own this great business, but I always like to say, and this is one of my lines, I have a bunch of fun lines that I say, people ask you what you do. When anybody asks me that, I try to not just focus on what I do for a living, even though I will say this business is a huge part of me and it's kind of my kid, just like your business and your community is yours too. But first and foremost, I'm a dad. I've got two kiddos. One is 20, actually down by you guys in DC. She goes to GW. She's a sophomore. She's actually in Portugal right now, hanging out with some buddies, traveling all over. And I'm just so happy because we just love to travel. So when your kids following something you love and you tried to influence them, not dragging them around the world, but they love it in school. And then our youngest, Rubina, is a junior in high school. And then my wife, who's awesome, we've been married 23 years now. She also is a business owner. She owns a business called Running with Scissors, which is an artist collective with 80 artists, 16,000 square feet. So like think about like kilns and like printing presses and wood shop and all those things that like an artist can't own, or they can, but it's really hard. They get to collectively use those, share the space. And so she's created this, like, talk about community, like very similar, even though you guys are totally a different like world. She's in the art world. I say she's the mother of artists, you can imagine. And we had apartment buildings in Portland that we owned. We sold those to focus on our passions, which for her, it's Running with Scissors. And for me, it's Grandy Organics. And so I'll pivot to that. So what is Grandy Organics? It's 100% organic granola, trail mix, and roasted nut company. We make everything in Maine. And I had a business partner for 22 years. I'm a huge fan of partnership. But after 22 years, Nat was ready to go do something different. I was able to buy him out. Part of the reason Kate and I sold our buildings. And now I've been the sole owner for 4 years. That said, I have an incredible team. We have 41 people that we employ. This is the part that blows. I don't usually throw numbers out, but Kelly's like, did you ever think you'd have a $2.5 million payroll? No, but like that, isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
So, well, you pay people and you're like, oh my God, like that person bought a house because I have this company, or they just went on vacation, or they got a new car. Or, like I'm not at the bakery every day, but when I go, like somebody's like, hey, check out my new whip, and it's like, oh, that's cool. So I'm really proud of that. And we also provide a living wage to people. So we're in the middle of nowhere, Maine, which you guys have the middle of nowhere, Virginia. It's just like there's not much going on there. So I'm really proud of the fact that we're the largest employer in the town. And in 2015,
you're the largest employer in your town?
There's nothing there. I mean, it's
so
like,
what? That's amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's cool. So we bought a facility in 2015. Prior to that, we were in an old dairy barn, which you can imagine. It was like a barn. It was like rustic, cool for marketing, but not ideal for food production. And so we bought this elementary school sitting on the Saco River. And for those that know New England, the Saco River runs through the White Mountains of New Hampshire down to the ocean in Maine. And it's this beautiful meandering river. And so we have 400 feet on the river. We have 8.5 acres. And this old school was abandoned. We had done a school consolidation in our state. So the school was basically not being used. It had all these old radiators and things like that in it. We basically ripped all those out, put all solar-powered, basically electric facility, brought in 288 solar panels. This is in 2015. So in 2015, it was really hard to really there was solar, but there weren't quite the incentives that there were over the last 5-10 years. There also really wasn't any financing for them. So, I was able to convince the bank to be able to finance those. So we now own all those, and it helps provide power to our facility. To give you an idea of the scale of where we distribute and what we can make about 18,000 pounds of granola a day, which is kind of crazy, right? And we buy ingredients from all over the world. So our oats are again, organically grown. And I've listened to some of your other guests and like Danielle and other people about food. Where I'm really passionate about is organic. So we'll talk about that. And for me, it's less about it does matter what you put in your body, but I'm also an environmentalist. So I think a lot about pollution and all that. So we'll talk about that. And then so beyond that, so where we distribute. So we sell to all the Whole Foods in the country. They're been a partner of ours since 1981. So the business started in 1979. Let me rewind a bit and say that I bought in with Nat in 2000. He bought it in 97 from the two founders, these two lovely women. Sarah and Penny started it, and it was kind of a small business for them, on the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then basically within a couple of years, I was able to grow it with Nat up into the millions of dollars. And so where we've basically done over the last years is just try to expand our distribution. So you guys were a huge help when we went into Costco, which we barely didn't meet our metrics in Costco Northeast, but we did land in San Diego and LA last year, and those both did really well. So we're hoping to do that again this year. We also, I have to mention my favorite retailer in the whole country, and I don't know if you guys know this, but Mom's is the best marketplace in the whole country. I just saw them out at the Natural Products Show, and I'm there's nobody else out there that has the integrity that they have for the products that they put in there. They actually and Whole Foods used to do this more, but like it's harder, as they get bigger. Whole Foods is actually really good too. But the point of the story is Mom's is awesome. And so you guys should just
We
support
have that
them.
in
They're just good
Herndon,
people.
right? We have,
Yeah, there's like 20, they have like 25 locations.
okay. I know they're in Annapolis. Okay.
Yeah, they just announced they're opening two places in Chicago, which is really cool. So they're kind of all over there in like upstate, a little bit in New York, a little bit where are they? Massachusetts, but mostly in DC. So we sell there. And then the other cool thing that we do is we're on a lot of college campuses. So you probably didn't know about this, Kelly, but so if you go into the dining hall, Syracuse, yeah, most of those places in upstate New York, I don't know if we're in Ithaca or not, but we're in a bunch of places.
Oh gosh, I would
Yeah, my
imagine you
alma mater,
are.
UNH.
That's nice quality food they're giving those students. I like that. That's a real nice quality food.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, so I should also mention that we are gluten free. And then this year, because I'm sure you have some folks in your community that are either celiac or gluten intolerant, I'm meandering here, but tell me if this is okay.
No, no, no. This is great. I'm bursting actually, Aaron, because I'm super interested in this. I think everything you're saying is interesting.
So what I would say to you is, so we did become certified gluten free a bunch of years ago. This year we upped our standard to a better one. So getting in the weeds and gluten. And by the way, we still have some items that do have gluten in it, but we were like really, really careful. We do all kinds of testing and like sequencing and all that stuff. We only have like 2 items left that have gluten in them, but we've moved everything to gluten free. This year we moved to regenerative organic. So if your community doesn't know much about regenerative organic, it's like, okay, you're organic, which basically for people don't know much about means there's no pesticides that are chemically derived, right? So like they're just going to be organic and there's really not much you're going to do. And then fertilizers can't be chemically derived, right? And so there's no junk on our product, meaning you're not going to ingest that, and we haven't harmed the earth our farmers haven't harmed the earth by putting it on there. So then there's the next level, which is called regenerative organic. Regenerative organic means that you're like rotating your crops and doing things like having like animals on the field to regenerate that soil, to like naturally till it as opposed to like mechanically tilling it. Because when you mechanically till it, you basically degrade that soil. You also have a lot of carbon that comes off. And so what they've found is if you naturally till it and just do those, and then you also like, so for instance, like with oats, they'll grow like soybeans next, or they'll do like, they basically rotate different crops. I'm not a farmer, so I don't want to sound like I know that much about it. But I will tell you that we did that. And the other thing we did this year by going to this regenerative organic oats is we are now below 5 parts per million for gluten-free. So the FDA standard in order for you to be gluten-free is 20 parts per million. So we're talking like really small amount. Then the latest certification we had before this one was 10 parts per million. Now we're below 5 parts per million. So pretty cool. And then one other thing I should just name drop too is, so we do a lot with smoothie bowl shops. So you guys have our favorite smoothie bowl shop in your area. I connected you with the owner, Amir, who owns South Block. So if any of you guys know South Block, it started in DC. They're just the best people. Like we've become really good friends with them. I wish I had one up here. They just opened some down in South Carolina and they're expanding. Like I think they're up to like 25 locations. They've got one in Dulles. They've got one at Amazon headquarters. They've got one out by you. And so we supply them granola too. But it's really cool for like those food service places because now at 5 parts per million, they can say it's like certified gluten-free in food service too. So anyways, that's kind of like what we do, but you might have some questions and I probably should take a sip of water.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, I want to start with obviously it's very admirable, your passion for the environment, but where did that come from? When did that start?
Yeah, I mean, I think that started as a kid. Like my parents were really cool about we always gardened, right? Like we traveled a ton. So my parents I've driven cross country with my parents when I was 12 and my sister was 9 and we went to the LA Olympics. And so I just got to go to all the national parks and I just became an environmentalist. I don't know, like just as a kid, it was long before everybody was recycling, we were recycling. I think my mom really drove that. And then I think going to UNH, which is a pretty earthy, crunchy school, even like reinforced that more. But yeah, I think that's kind of how it all started. I'm not sure. I just always have been. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Kelly, I'd say one other thing too. When you grow up like we did in the Adirondacks, which I always tell people like it's the largest state park in the nation, and people are like, "What?" And I'm like, "No, it's like one third of the state. It's huge." You're just in touch with the environment. Obviously, like in this Schenectady, you're more suburban, city. But like we were in the come on, we were in the Adirondacks all the time. I know you were in Lake George. It's like
Yeah,
yeah. So
absolutely. You can drink that water. Amazing. I love that. Okay. And so Maine has been your home for a long time. I mean, really, you raised your kids there. That's been your home for a long time. And I know that you already mentioned that you were one of the biggest, the largest employers in your town. And I know that in 2020, you were awarded the Business Person of the Year or Business of the Year. Which was it?
oh, the state, yeah, no. So there's a 50 awardees every year. So every state gets one, right? In 2020, it was like the worst year to get it because it's usually this big
Oh,
thing and like whatever.
well, we're
But it
talking
was
about it
fun.
now.
It's okay. I'm good with it. It was like honestly one of my prouder moments. Like to get that's a big deal. You don't nominate yourself. Our banker actually nominated us. And then you go, there's a lot of people that are nominated for it. Yeah, it's really cool. And let me talk about Maine for a second. So I went to school at UNH, so I was there from 90 to 94. And just because you'd probably be interested in my path, and we kind of lost touch as most people do after high school, after college, and stuff like that. So I moved to Baltimore. I lived in Baltimore for about a year and a half. I ran a hotel there in the Inner Harbor. I didn't run the hotel, but I worked in the hotel. I was a management trainee, so I worked throughout the hotel. I thought like, all right, I want to be in hotel restaurant management. My grandfather owned a fish fry. You might remember that, and Anker's Fish Fry. So I always wanted to be in the restaurant business. My dad always tried to talk me out of it. And I did the hotel thing, but it was very corporate. And I was like, I got to get out of here. And to your point, I've always kind of gone against the grain and wanted to do my own thing. I've never been afraid of like trying stuff out and doing something different. So I moved to Aspen, Colorado, and I was a ski bum for 3 years.
3?
And yeah, so I was
This is
there
going to
from
help
90.
some parents that hear that their kids want to move to Aspen and be a ski bum. This is helpful. Keep going, Erin.
I'm a huge fan of people taking a break in their 20s. Like, I mean, there's a few people that know what they want to do, and I'm always amazed by them. But like, if you don't know what you want to do, like, go meet people, find things out, figure it out. Now, I was able to extract myself from there because it's a really hard place to leave. Like, and I made crazy good money. So this is the part that I want to tell you, and this is kind of how I got into the natural products industry. So I got a job within the first week, and Colorado towns or any tourist town in the world, like if you work hard, they love you, and you just like, and that's just like who I was. I grew up working with my grandfather's. My dad was a dentist, so his own practice. So it was like, I just got it. You just work hard. And so, anyways, I got a job at this vegan restaurant, and it's the coolest place. It's still there. It's called the Explorer Bookstore. And inside the bookstore is a vegan cafe. And if anybody's ever out in Aspen, Colorado, go there. It's super cool. It was one of the only 3 vegan restaurants in the country at that time. There was like one in New York, LA, and Aspen. And the owner, who was Catherine Thalberg, and I hope it's okay I mentioned you're going to the Oscars tomorrow. So her dad was the guy who was one of the founders of MGM and merged sound and motion. And so every 2 years, they have the Irving Thalberg Award. And so Catherine was with his daughter, and she was amazing. And so she was a trailblazer, and I got to work for her and her husband, Bill Sterling, who was the mayor at one point of Aspen. They were just really cool people. And I got to wait on all these people that were super health minded. Like, and so I was a foodie already. And I'm like, in 1995, I'm learning about almond milk, oat milk, like there wasn't hemp milk at that point, but all the alternatives. I was learning about seitan, tempeh, tofu, just all of that you really haven't seen in a mainstream society in the last 10 or 15 years, right? And so it was such a cool education for me. And we were juicing and doing like ginger shots and doing all that kind of stuff. And it was just like such a cool education for me. Yeah, and a lot of herbal teas and very just naturalist. And I remember learning a little bit about organic because at that point there wasn't even certified organic. Under the Clinton administration, that became in 2000. So like it was like, so I was at that early phase. So then I moved to Maine in 98. And it was funny because so now I'm like, okay, I've worked in restaurants and hotels for like 4 or 5 years. all right, I'm going to start listening to my dad. So I moved to Maine and I went to go hang out with Rupi, one of our good buddies.
Oh,
Yeah.
Rupee Gill. Oh my goodness. All right, keep going.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Still one of my best friends. So he, yeah. So Rupi lives in Maine. He's like 10 minutes away from me. So I moved and I had visited Maine, and here's why I loved it. Like I was like, all right, and this is funny because you and I, like, one of my favorite words for life is intentionality. And I had the founder of Tom's of Maine had this course years ago that I got to attend called the seven values of intentional living or something. I can't basically that's the disc. And so when I graduated college, I said, I'm going to live in three places in the next 5 years, and I'm going to find the one that I like the best, and I'm going to live there. And I say this to everybody, like my kids, to my, like, and most of my friends already, they know it. That's why they chose to live here. Choose where you want to live, because you can build your community and your life anywhere, especially now with the way you can like do it, so many things remote, right? And so that was kind of my intention. And I lived in Aspen, I lived in Baltimore. I love the Mid-Atlantic, by the way. But for me, there was just too many people and I wanted a little bit more remoteness. I love Colorado, but I needed to be by the water and I wanted to be by family. And so I visited Rupi a bunch and I came to Maine and I was like, this is a cool area. Like there's just so much going on. Reminded me of upstate New York and like you're more in touch with like environment. And I also felt like Portland was like going to kind of pop like as a town. I was like, this is just, it's got potential. And so I moved here in 98. I live about 10, 15 minutes outside of Portland, a 3-minute walk to the ocean. And I live in heaven. I love it. And I have so many friends here that, like you, I've just built a community and it's just really been good. And then last thing I'd say, Maine is like all small business. There's not like big businesses like you would have in DC or New York or wherever. And so you really support small business. Local isn't just some like, oh, I bought local. It's like, no, I'm supporting Aaron and Kate. Like I'm supporting so-and-so. You know, you go to a restaurant, you know that person owns it and you kind of know who they are. And I love that.
Wow. That's incredible. Okay, let's talk about your products, because one product that you had mentioned in another podcast that the recipe from Coconola came from someone that was within your company already. How did that happen? I'm just curious.
Jamie Pelosi has worked with me 18 years. I always give him credit for this. We were starting to see like grain-free and like paleo pop. This is like 10, 15 years ago. And there were some other products on the market and they were pretty good. And we were like, hey, let's make our own. And we basically Jamie developed that recipe, and it's still to this day the number one grain-free granola out there. It's delicious. If your team hasn't had it, please order it. You can get it on Amazon, our website. Like I said, you can get it at Mom's or other local grocers. But we have 3 different flavors in there. We've got a Coconola that's original. It's 81% nuts and seeds. And then we've got, that's the thing about a lot of like products out there, is there just kind of a lot of filler. Ours is just like loaded with like the good stuff. And that's the thing I like to tell people is like, there's not like, I don't like ever like diss the competition, but a lot of those guys are made by co-manufacturers in the middle of wherever. Like we actually make everything in like a small batch. Small batch is anywhere to like 200 to 300 pounds. So like every little batch, it's like, yeah, it used to be like 50, but still like most places it's like thousands and thousands of pounds, right? So we literally like, we see everything in there. And so we're really, really discerning about that. So yeah, that's Coconola. We do one with dark chocolate chips, which are delicious. And then we also do one with peanut butter, and it's really, really good. And then we have a bunch of other products that we've developed. So our classic granola, which is the one that you guys all bought, that's our original recipe from 1979. That's got 50% less sugar than all the other granolas in the market, the top selling granolas in the market. And we do have, so the way we're looking at, I'm kind of meandering here, but the way we look at the granola category these days, it's really interesting. Like when I started, there was one shelf, 4 feet. That was it. It was like this, right? Now, if you go into any of these markets we've already mentioned, it's anywhere between 12 to like 20 feet. It's crazy. Like going to Wegmans, it's huge, right? We sell Wegmans. So like it's a category's grown and cereal's going down because it's more processed and it's a lot of sugar in it and people just don't want it. So what I would say to you is there's 3 categories in granola. There's the grain-free, which I already mentioned. There's sort of your traditional granola, which is like what we were brought up on, or like the 1970s granola, which is a little bit more like nuts, oats, seeds, a little bit less sweet. And then there's a third category, which is kind of hatched in the last 5-10 years, which is more indulgent. And so that category is much more like, okay, I want my granola, but I want a little bit of a sweet here too. And so we really entered into that in the last few years. And our number one seller in that is a dark chocolate sea salt granola. And that's in Whole Foods nationwide. And we just launched 2 other items. One is our peanut butter dark chocolate, and the other one's an ancient grain product. Those 2, we were able to get clusters. And so people really want the clusters. And so we were able to develop those, and we're really excited about those. And those just went into Whole Foods nationwide. So, and they're launching on Amazon next month.
So how many products do you have altogether, Aaron?
That's a good question. I always kind of lose track. We have about 15 between trail mixes and nuts. And the other thing I should mention is if you go into Mom's in their bulk section, or even Fresh Market, we just went into their bulk set. And I don't know if you guys have any of those down by you, or Whole Foods, the bulk set where you buy it by the pound or scoop it out, that's us. So we're the largest supplier to Whole Foods nationwide in the bulk set. So if you want, we do an antioxidant trail mix for them. We do curry cashews. We have an everything bagel cashew. We've got a garlic herb cashew. We've got, what am I forgetting? A spicy chipotle cashew. So we do a lot of fun things like that too. The branded side is really more like our packaged granola. And that's the category that we're really trying to grow right now. And as granola is growing, we're trying to grow that too. But I don't want to get too businessy. But yeah, that's kind of so. But then when I say 15 unique products, we might sell that classic granola in 3 different sizes. And because we do bulk for universities, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Down by you, we just got into Johns Hopkins, and hopefully we're talking to some other folks down there too. So.
It's right by us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And let's talk about that, because I know from what I've seen on social media and from what my conversations with you and just how you're talking about the smoothie, you have relationships with people. I know that's something that you're just as passionate about as you are granola and the environment, the people that you work with. And I think one of the things that I heard is you're in the aisle, with the product and all that. Aaron, how do you, I mean, it seems like a lot. How do you do all that? And
sometimes you don't,
Okay. Sometimes you don't. Yeah.
Look, relationships to me are probably the most important thing. I watched the way my dad ran his business. He had people that worked with him in his dentist's office for 30, 40 years. He just treated people like you would treat your friends and family. And so I call it the Grandy fam. I don't joke about it. And then sometimes somebody leaves or whatever happens. And then it's sad. You're losing somebody in the fam. But then I'm so proud of them, because then they go off and do something amazing. I've hired so many people that were early in their career, and they go off and do awesome things. The relationships are everything for me. We were hanging out with our buyers last week at Natural Products Expo West, which I would love for you to come out to next year. And it's so much fun, but I love the people. It's all hugs. It's and for me, that's why I do this. And the people that I get to work with, they're everything to me. And I don't know, that's just it's who I am. And I can tell with you, I'm so I followed you on social media since the beginning, and it's so fun to watch you. I was watching someone do push-ups yesterday, and I'm like, it's real. You guys are just so fired up for her.
Jane McLean, 6. It might have been Jane McLean, 6.
There you go. And
yeah. No, I know. And that's what that means more to me than anything. I'd much rather talk about the person doing push-ups or the person that I met in the store. I think that's great that you were able to marry having your career and your business and your passion for the environment and the whole food. I've never heard the story about when you moved out to Colorado. I'm really glad you shared that, Aaron, because that's where we learn the most. And I was the same way. I worked in restaurants, and I learned more in restaurants than any of my other jobs. My kids we know, Mom, you worked at Friendly's. We know you were. I'm but these were the systems, and this is, it's not the serving of the people. It is that as well, but there's just so much to learn in that industry, because it is a jack of all trades industry where you're running a business within 4 walls, but you're serving, and it's hospitality, and it's all the things, and it's relationship.
Well, it's that, and I'll throw another layer onto it too, which is, I always say this to people, the reason you go out and try different things in your life before you just jump into a career or marriage or whatever, like date a bunch of just date people you don't end up loving too, right? Is you don't know what you love until what you don't like too,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like
Good one.
I say that to my kids like all the time, and like both of them worked at lobster shacks this past summer, and they're both going to do it again this summer. And it's so fun to watch them. And one in particular worked at like one of the, I won't name it because I don't want to pit the two against each other, but one of them is just so delicious, but they cross train everybody, kind of like you guys were at Friendly's. Like they could hop on the grill, they have to do this, they got to like, and so people, they don't do that anymore. By the way, they also pool their tips. So like nobody cares. And they had like 4 different locations at all these different places. And so like one time she was working at one of the locations and she's like, oh, that manager wasn't very good. And I'm like, well, remember that because someday you're going to be a manager. But meanwhile, she was mostly complimentary of the other managers. And so like, I just think it's really important to be in a place where you can like evaluate that and just understand it. And it's just really, I agree with you. Service is like, and I think that's the other thing that I bring to my business is, and my ex-business partner was the same way. We came from hospitality. I could tell that with just like watching from afar with you. You just take care of your customers. If you take care of your customers, everything will be okay. You know, so like if we ever get a complaint, it's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. What can we do? And we make it right. It's just like there's, and when I worked in the hotel in Baltimore, I remember working in the front desk. And if somebody was arguing loud enough for a free room at the front, my boss was like, dude, like if they got that much energy and you just want to make it right, just make it right. Like it makes me sad because then there's those jerks that like take advantage of that stuff. But there's so few of those people. And at the end of the day, it's like, just be good to your customers, good to your people. And I have another line that I say is business is just a series of different partnerships. So if I'm not a partner with, I'll keep talking about moms, then I'm not going to be good to them. Like I got to make sure it's equitable with them when we run promotions or whatever. And the same thing goes with our suppliers, and that same thing goes with my employees. Like it's all just series of partnerships, and it's got to be symbiotic. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't put up boundaries. It doesn't mean you can't advocate for yourself. It doesn't mean an employee can't say, "Hey, I need a raise." It doesn't mean that the retailer can't say, "I need a bigger promotion." It also means I can say no.
I love that. What is the hardest thing about the food industry?
Well, right now, I mean. Right now, it's the current political, and I know I'm not supposed to get political, but I will tell you these tariffs are so fucking stupid.
Oh, well, you can talk about that, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, and I shouldn't swear, but I have to tell you, like, it's so dumb, and I tell people this all the time, and you may have some people on your listeners that disagree with me on this, and if they do, I challenge them to a debate. But what I would say to you is the oldest form of taxation is when a boat pulled into a harbor and you tax them. In the last hundreds and thousands of years, we have found ways to make more efficient taxation, and that is W-2s and 1099s and sales tax and tolls and yada. I could go on and on, all the ways that we pay taxes. And so to tax a business like mine, I then can't hire as many people. I have to either raise my price or cut something. And so it's been really challenging. So my purchaser, Jamie, who's been with me 18 years, told me that 2025 was harder, 5 times harder than 2020. And you can imagine 2020, we get coconut from the Philippines, we get honey from Mexico, like that. This last year was harder. And so we'll see how this next year goes, but that's the hardest thing right now. For a while, it was probably the regulatory stuff, like learning all that type of stuff. But I have a quality assurance manager, Stephanie Wolf, who's just amazing. Stephanie came from Poland Springs, so she had like that background and craft. And so she's top notch. And so she just really makes sure that we're playing by all the rules and we just run everything super tight. I would love to have you come up and see our facility. Like, come to Maine.
When I heard it was in an elementary school, and I was actually talking to my husband about that last night, because I was like, I didn't really think about how unique it is to not be a conglomerate, right? Like to not, I mean, like in the fitness industry, there's no, even the franchises, they own 5, they own the Pilates, they own the Burn, everything's merged. And you as an independent, is that what?
I'm totally independent.
Yeah. I mean, is that as rare as I think it is for the size of your business?
So Yeah, so let me say that. Let me answer your last question with this. The other thing I should have mentioned, which I just don't because I just forget about it. That's probably the hardest thing because we're competing against Kraft, General Mills, Kellogg's. I mean, now Kind is owned by Mars. So like these are big companies. I had a granola company out of San Francisco come by our booth, and I'm like friends with a lot of our competitors, and she's awesome. And so she came by last week, and she's like, "You guys are huge." And I'm like, I mean, like we're maybe 15 times the size of her in terms of revenue, maybe 4 times or 5 times the size of her employees. But I'm like, Michelle, we're like going against these huge companies. We're not that big, but it's all relative. It's all relative. And to you, yeah, you're competing against Planet Fitness or whatever other chains there are out there. And I mean, that's why I admire you in building the community you've done too. And I think people underestimate how hard that is from an accounting standpoint, personnel, HR, like cash flow. Like I just bought $200,000 worth of chocolate chips directly from Peru. So it's like, okay, I'll have enough chocolate chips for the next 5 months. Now I'm doing that to mitigate all the tariffs and all the fluctuations because chocolate's been going like pretty high lately.
Yeah.
So like it's just
That I'm so interested. I love food. I'm just so
I know we both
interested.
have like stuff to do here because you've got a big day tomorrow, and I'm going out with my wife tonight. We're going to go out to dinner, and
Oh my God, it's 4 o'clock. No, I have so
I
much
know.
to ask you. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Well, this has been amazing. And I really, we need to talk more and offline and back online because I really, really would love to talk a little bit more about just you as a businessman and your ethics and all of that. But one other thing, one question that I have to ask all of my guests, this will be my last question. And the name of this podcast is Start Before You're Ready. The person that named my book is somebody that you and I both know and loved, Jen Rivera. Speaking of Lake George, we were in Lake George and it was August and my book was coming out in the fall. And I was like, I need a name for my book. And Jen's like, and I'm like, here's the names I'm thinking. And she goes, no, I don't want to hear that. Tell me what the book's about.
You did nail it.
And I just started telling her and she's like, Start Before You're Ready. I'm like, let's have a drink. That's the best name ever. And so that's the name of the podcast. Start Before You're Ready. And it feels like it's a very trendy saying right now, but I swear I'd never really heard it before. It felt innovative at the time. So a time in your life or advice to other people about starting before you're ready. I think you've already done a great job of that, Aaron. But if you just want to kind of sum that up.
Yeah, Kelly. And by the way, hats off to Jen because she did nail that. Jen is awesome.
She's amazing.
So here's what I'd say to you is it's funny because I've not used that term, but I often coach entrepreneurs a lot. They'll come to me and be like, hey, I'm going to start my own business or, I've had just in all kinds of different things. Like I remember this one guy that was going to be a developer here in Portland and he had done it for a large company and he was going to go break off on his own and do his first development. And I said, Ian, I was like, I'm going to promise you, I do working walks. I don't know if you do those. Like I love to walk and talk with people because it just.
And because we can't sit, let's be real.
There's that too, yeah.
This is a lot.
But I said to him, your biggest problem is going to be that in 6 months, you're going to have too many projects and you're not going to know what to do. And I usually find that if somebody's got it to go for it, and it doesn't mean I'm picking on entrepreneurship, right? But it could be fitness too. I mean, and I went to a personal trainer a bunch of years ago. It was one of the best things I did. And I think it's such a good statement, if you don't wait, like why would you wait? Like start before you're ready. I think I think it's the same thing. Like you could go back to what I was saying with his antithesis, like get out before it's too late, So like one of my favorite podcasts is Freakonomics. Do you listen to Freakonomics?
Oh yes. Andrew,
really good.
My husband listens to it.
But they have a podcast that's all about the economics of quitting and how our culture. So this is like the opposite of your thing. I hope you don't mind me deviating. But the whole podcast is about like, if you don't like something, then get out of it. Not because you're just unhappy. That's, yeah, of course. But also you're giving up that time that you're not doing something that you love. And I remember I quit football freshman year, right? And I remember a bunch of guys gave me a bunch of crap about it. I was horrible. I'm a good athlete, but I was like, I got my ass kicked. And I was like, And whatever, I went and did other stuff, like, especially if you go fill your time. So start before you're ready. I think it's a great name. I have to say one last thing to you, and I know we both have to go, but one of the things I say to my team all the time, and this I'm going to give you two because I can't pick one. One is my best ideas sucked. Like, go for it, guys. Like, I have great ideas all the time, and they turn out they suck. Like, I don't know. Like, how do you know it's a good idea until you try it, right? So the other one that is, it's from the Mr. Rogers movie, and it's my favorite movie in the last 5-10 years. Tom Hanks is the lead in it. If people haven't seen it, I watched that movie on my way to Expo West in March of 2020 when the whole world was shutting down. And by the way, that like completely affected my business in a negative way because we were selling bulk to all these places, right? And all of a sudden everybody freaked out and like we didn't know it was in the air. It was a nightmare. But there's a line in that when the main character's dad is dying and Tom Hanks, Mr. Rogers, sits down next to the family and they're all grieving and they don't know what to do and it's horrible. And he says to them, hey guys, like anything that's mentionable is manageable. And that's my favorite line right now. And I say it to my team all the time. And so even in the toughest times and when you're managing a person or anything, if it's mentionable, it's manageable. So in other words, talk about it. If you talk about it, you're gonna be able to manage it. And it's like, and it sounds very businessy because it's got the word management in it. But in this instance, it was talking about a loved one dying. And they talk about what he wants to do in his last days of his life. And I think that's really true. And I think you could take it to fitness, to health, to like your spouse, like your kids, like, hey, so like my kids are tired. I'm like, hey guys, we're going to talk about this. And, and if I'm like, hey, we got to mention this. It's not fun, but like, let's talk about it. And so that's something I've just really worked on the last 6 years and just not being afraid. And it doesn't mean you have to be an ass about it. It's just like, hey, like, let's talk about this. And also you have to be like, is this an okay time to talk about it?
So good. So good. I love it so much. And for some reason you were just reminding me of my cousin Jan big time, but that's a whole nother.
I remember Jan.
Yeah, of course you remember Jan.
He's a
But
really
your
good
voice
baseball
is
player.
reminding me of
Remember
Jan.
that, right?
It's making me think of him. I'm going to send him a message. Aaron, thank you so much for being on Start Before You're Ready. Congratulations for your incredible success with not just your business, but your family and your life. You seem genuinely happy. It is truly wonderful to see someone that you grew up with that stayed true to himself and is doing something that he loves. I think you're an incredible role model. I hope all my kids can talk like you're talking right now in a lot of years because that's it, right? That's it. And you were true to yourself. And I think you just said a lot of great nuggets. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll have a part 2. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Start Before You're Ready. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might need a little motivation. Ready to start your own journey? Check out our workouts and nutrition coaching programs at kellysbootcamp.net. You can choose from in-person sessions or virtual programs. Set up a complimentary coaching session to get started. Follow along with me and the show on social media at Kellys_bootcamp. Until next time, this is Kelly Young reminding you that the best time to start is always now.